This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this?
This is a sham.
No.
Y'all, just stop. Get real.
Welcome to DBL. How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Yes, I'm doing well. Looking good. Starting
She
off.
said bring the energy, so that was my energy.
That was his attempt.
Yeah.
I appreciate that attempt there. All right, it is a special day today. It's International Women's Day.
Yes!
Yay! It is a day to celebrate and honor women's rights and to bring attention to issues like gender equality as well as violence and abuse against women. So what is the state of women's rights across the globe? Well, according to the UN, it's not looking good. In fact, they said we're still 300 years away from gender equality around the world. We'd love to know your take on the state of women's rights this year in particular. I'm going to the female on the panel. How do you feel? Happy International Women's Day, my friend, my fellow woman.
Yeah.
How do you feel about women's rights and where they stand today?
You know, it's interesting because we think about the facts and figures of women of color getting higher education rates, being first-time homeowners, doing all of these things that seemingly you would think advances women's rights. But then we actively have government interference against our bodies, against us economically, against so many things. So I'm wondering what the disparity is going to look like between the economic advancement of women and the educational advancement of women and the government interference that's trying to tamper and hinder those advancements. It seems to me like we're almost going to end up with a population who is most or more educated and more economically sound, although let's get this straight, there is still a huge disparity when it comes to women and equal pay.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to women of color and equal pay, and I've posted those breakdowns many years in a row to see what the disparity is between white women, black women, Asian women, Native American women, Latina women. But it's going to be interesting because there's going to kind of be like a
coming to Jesus moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're all going to be this educated class with lots of money, but they're not going to have really many rights of their own in some respects.
Or more educated and more able to run the world, but then with no autonomy over our bodies.
Right. So the rights aren't there. That's really, really interesting. I hadn't thought about that. What do you think, Jeff?
What do you think? I mean, you're the woman, right?
Oh my God.
I don't know if I should say I just support all you my women on the panel out there, my wife, my mother. I mean, yeah, I support women. Is today about bringing acknowledge to pay disparities and things like that, or celebrating women in the workplace?
Both. Yeah, I think both. I think, and I just think it's important to note too, like in America, we have it particularly good for women. In Iran and other places, it's even worse. So we've got work to do. But speaking of women, do you know 74% of teachers are women? It's the second most common job. But get this, right now, teachers are quitting in record numbers. Some of the reasons include spiking stress levels, problems with student behavior, and a harsh political spotlight. On a related note, the Washington Post did a story detailing things teachers were told they were not allowed to teach in their classrooms anymore. It's all due to a new bunch of laws limiting what children can learn. One Iowa teacher was told they weren't allowed to instruct students that slavery was wrong because it's a stance and not a fact. Another teacher from North Carolina had to remove portions of Christopher Columbus's journal from their curriculum after a parent complained it made their white son feel guilty. Finally, a math teacher in Virginia was barred from teaching a data set on police use of force after administrators questioned if it would make children uncomfortable.
Is this a little extreme? Like when you read that, like is this like, because I don't see them saying in school slavery was not wrong. Like, I don't know what school that is, because they're not teaching that when I went to school, or they're definitely not going to teach that in my kids' school. I would have something to say about that. So is this an example, like, is this a far left example? I don't mean to make it political, but these examples seem a little ridiculous to me.
Apparently they're much more regional. So you're right, these are in different communities. But this is a real thing starting of you don't want children to feel bad. Therefore, teaching the history, or as I like to say, the truth, is told that they can't do that because it might make children feel bad. So slavery is taught as something that happened, but we can't discuss whether or not the morality about it.
Where's the push for that? I don't see anybody pushing for saying slavery isn't wrong. I don't see pushback on that. I think everyone would agree slavery is wrong.
Well, not everyone does. And to be clear, we live in a more progressive state. You know, like when we start talking about states' rights versus like federal rights, those are very different things. And I understand that it does seem extreme, but it is extreme, but it is happening.
Yeah.
So it's almost one of those things where it's like you give someone an inch and then they take a mile. Like no one thought that Roe v. Wade would ever seriously be overturned. But we certainly saw examples from state to state and starting out from city to city, then to state, and now federal, where Roe v. Wade was overturned. So when we're having these conversations about education, we can see how something like that can go from a small town to a city to a state, and now all of a sudden it's federal. So I understand what you're saying, but I do believe that it's important to have those conversations so people are aware, especially in their local elections, that this could be something that is being slid into your ballot that you aren't even aware that you're voting on.
Yeah, I think it's fair to also look at certain places like Florida. I mean, Ron DeSantis is running for president, we think, right? His stance on education is, I'm very intervening on that. There are certain places in Florida in which they wrap the book so you can't see what the titles are. They're banning certain books at this point. The Don't Say Gay bill is also, it's all what we can say, what we can't say, and it's making teachers, I assume, feel like they're walking a tightrope of nothing. There's no money at the end of that tightrope. There's no help. There's no resources. And now there's also no benefit of actually teaching, right? Like the truth, in my opinion. If you can't teach about all these things that really happen, why are you a teacher?
Well,
what's the point of that?
It's interesting, too, to hear you say truth, in my opinion.
Right,
we understand that this is the truth.
Right.
We're talking about feelings of one particular child, and that child and that parent represents a full demographic of people.
Absolutely.
Feelings aren't facts.
Right.
So are we going to school to learn about facts, or are we going to school to protect feelings? Because I can tell you, in my years of education, no one was thinking about my feelings when they were telling me how to learn. So it's interesting that we're having these conversations now. It's also interesting to me that parents seemingly don't truly understand how their children are being brought up in this world. We used to talk about how, health and, learning about sex education and all that. A lot of those things, what are some of the ways that you learned about sex, Jeff? Was it through health, or was it through word of mouth with your friends?
Yeah, because I was the youngest brother, and all other friends of the youngest brother.
Right.
Yeah, you learn like that.
That's how kids are learning things. Now they have the internet. So it's not as though they can go to school and just be brainwashed completely. Like now, the hidden in the locker room is going to be, hey, this is the truth about what Mr. So-and-so just said. This person who has over 1 million followers and I actually respect is saying this. So it's an interesting phenomenon that people really believe that they're going to block their children from the truth.
Right. And it will certainly come out with a generation of people that have hidden and looked for the truth in that way. Our school, I always say, taught us a class on banned books only so that we could be aware of what they're trying to shut down. So Florida, I'm just saying, it's not a major thing, but Florida is a big state, and a big state within a big election, and that guy is running for president. And if that's the way we're going, things like Roe v. Wade and protecting our bodily autonomy become the handmaid's tale because it starts to inch in, like you said, and then they just take the mile. Now it's, you can't teach slavery is wrong. That might be an extreme, but I'm not saying we're not creeping up to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think, I would hope that the vast majority of America doesn't think that way. Right? I think this is one school district in some small town that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah.
I might be completely wrong, but I don't think that if you brought that curriculum to an average school, that it would fly with anybody across the United States. That's just my opinion. Now everything, I think, is becoming political. So you're saying, do not vote in Ron DeSantis because of don't say gay, and now you can't teach slavery. It's like, that's a pretty heavy example of like why you can't do certain things. I just think it's political. That's all. I think it's very political.
I think it's
and heavy-handed in my mind.
I think you're right, and I think they're trying to rev up the political base. I just think at some point it's real.
But to make us fight about it, like on the average level of Americans, I think is completely wrong. Completely wrong.
Let us know what you think, YouTube or the app. Coming up on DBL, our interview with Double Dare legend Mark Summers. He's telling us all about the podcast that features some really cool guests. And is good customer service dead? We're talking about how more and more upset shoppers are starting to seek revenge on companies. Somebody
Everybody roll the clip.
Let's make sure we have Jeff's sex tape.
Wow, things are getting spicy here at DBL.
Cold-hearted snake, look into his eyes.
Let's roll that again, everybody.
Small amount of time, and the teacher conversation's a more interesting discussion than
Right.
the
I just felt like
women's
rushed on
day.
that one. That
Yeah.
way. Okay.
You were, but you could have said something as long as you kept it maybe
Sure.
30 seconds.
Okay. All right. Teachers would love to hear from you, especially, and find out what you guys think. No one brainwashes kids. Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay.
This is why, well, if Tori's looking for a comment, this is why I love traveling. You know what I mean? Because if you're not getting the truth or your history in books, or they're not teaching you right, travel will teach you that. You
Right.
go to other countries, you go to other places. Travel around your own city. Go to the south side, go to the north side. Hear stories, go experience culture in your own city, as small as that may be, and then branch out, you know, globally if you can. But you learn, I don't know, at least for me, I'm a hands-on guy. I'm not even a book guy anyway, so anything they taught me about Christopher Columbus, I forgot. You know, he came here in 1842 or something, right? Because the sea was blue. I remember that because it rhymed.
1492.
Well, there you go. I knew something like that.
400 years before.
But you know what I'm saying?
1842.
My point is, I learn things by, like, I'm a hands-on visual guy or rhyming guy. I learn like that. But if you're there, it's like you almost never forget it. That's my way to learn. That's how I'm going to teach my kids. Teach them diversity through going to these places, having hands-on experience, and this way it's not weird to them. Instead of, what's diversity? Reading the definition, that's not really how you learn, to me, in my mind.
I think that's very. How young would you take Lawson and Layton when you would start traveling?
As soon, like, real soon. I'm already thinking about taking them outside the country, you know?
That's
Yeah.
awesome. They're going to get passports?
Yeah.
Welcome back. What do you do when you order something and everything gets totally messed up? Do you complain? Do you take it a step further? Well, get this. According to a recent survey, more and more customers, around 74%, report they've experienced problems with products or services over the past year. And a growing number of people are actually seeking revenge. So what are the most common types of revenge? According to the survey, unhappy customers are pestering or public shaming service workers in person or online. So what do you think of this, and can you relate?
Oh.
I know. I don't even want to give you guys this story because you will get your heart racing.
It already is.
It's already
up.
It's up.
Already up.
I'm so
I
sorry.
can't. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about your anger issues. Yeah.
Well, I'm poking the wound. You know?
because companies know that their customer service is lacking, right? And if you call, it doesn't matter if it's an airline or an appliance or whatever, and you get someone, and I don't even want to blame the person, when they purposely send you to outside the country so the communication
It's harder.
is lacking,
Sure.
I go, listen, I don't mean to get mad at you, and I think you're doing your job, because I've been a telemarketer before. I'm like, could you please put your manager on the phone? Could you please give me someone I could talk to? And if you don't like the way that manager's talking, you just hang up, and I've learned you just call back. Because you'll get what you want. If you could tell that the person's grumpy on the other end, all you're gonna do is get mad because somehow they get off on that too.
So end the combo.
Hang up and call right back, and they'll be like, hey, no problem, I'm here to help. That has eased my tension a lot more. But sometimes I won't even deal with it, because I'm like, what's more important?
You'll eat it. You'll just take it.
Whatever I just wasted on that product, or my health, because I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Oh my God, Erica.
Yeah,
I
I am very much like, I'm not a revenge person in general. I do believe that the best revenge is living well, and I think it's just important to live well all the time. But I have definitely had to eat some things. I'm currently eating a whole lot right now because of a misstep with the vendor. And my thing is, like, could I get upset about it? Like, it's costing me a ton of money. Should I get upset, or should I just take this as a lesson to be more proactive about how I'm handling people going forward.
See,
I mean, time is money.
No, you're
like,
right.
If I'm on
You're
the
right.
phone with somebody for like an hour trying to figure things out, I have to actually think about how much my hour is worth.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. My revenge is reviews. I read reviews really well, and I write good reviews, and I write real reviews. And if you give me bad customer service, I will be very specific about what or what not to do. And I feel like as a consumer, that's a good way to have revenge. Does reviews not cut it for you guys?
No, I think reviews are great, but also that takes time.
Yeah.
I ain't got the time. I'm tired.
I think I have time. I think I like. I mean,
Just really tired.
And I'll write and be like, I had a bad meal, and chefs, let's say a restaurant, will write me and say, come in and have it again, and I'll fix it. Like, I will not let it go. I won't eat it. I won't eat it.
I just eat it.
It's probably better.
I just eat it too. I ordered fish, but this is a hamburger. I'll eat it.
I'll eat it. For real. I'll just eat it. I won't do it. Coming up on DBL, we're talking with friend of the show, Mark Summers. He's giving us a scoop on his podcast. That's coming up next.
You might have seen articles going around claiming the IRS is about to crack down on tips earned by people in the service industry. So let's verify. Is the IRS changing how tips get taxed? Our sources are the IRS, the Treasury Department, and the Joint Committee on Taxation. Tips have been considered taxable income for decades, meaning waitstaff have to report all the tips they get to the IRS. That is not changing. What's changing, potentially, is the logistics of how the IRS knows how much should be reported. Starting in the 90s, the IRS created 3 programs employers could opt into. Each program creates a set of rules for tip reporting, and the deal is if your business follows the rules, it won't get audited. For example, one program uses a formula to estimate the minimum amount of tips a worker should probably report. As long as the workers aren't reporting a number below that, the IRS won't audit them. But the IRS says they've gotten a lot of requests to update the programs. So it's worked out a proposed replacement, one that incorporates digital tipping data to make better estimates. This reflects how much tipping is done on tablets and apps now. Right now, the IRS is just requesting public comment on this new program, meaning all of this could change. But regardless of what happens, the actual laws on tip reporting won't change. Servers would still need to report and pay taxes on their tips as normal, but some of the paperwork their employers file with the IRS, which the IRS could use as a signal of underreporting, that could change. With your Verify, I'm Casey Decker.
Welcome back to DBL. Our next guest has been here so many times that he's basically family at this point. He made a career out of throwing that infamous green slime on Double Dare, and now he's adding podcast host to the resume. Check out our conversation with the Mark Summers. Please welcome Mark Summers.
Yeah.
How are you?
Hey, Mark. You've been a guest on hundreds of podcasts. What made you want to be a host?
Well, as far as, I've been hosting television shows, believe it or not, for almost 40 years. And during COVID, I was on a bazillion podcasts, and I realized that most of these folks weren't very good. Just because you have a microphone in front of your face, unless you do the homework and find out a purpose for these people to be on your show, and I just stopped doing them. And I kept getting approached by people to do this, and I kept saying no, but this great company, Believe Limited, decided I was their guy, and they kind of talked me into it, and I'm glad they did. Our mission is finding out how people overcome obstacles. If you go to a Broadway show or see a movie or a TV show and you say the person on that stage is so lucky, but what you don't realize is all the angst and the problems they had to overcome to get where they are, and that's what we're talking about.
You've interviewed some huge names. What have you found that separates people, Mark, who live crazy successful lives and who fight that fear from just average ones?
they're willing to take a chance and put their lives and their careers on the line. Most people retreat and go, I'm going home and I'll go in the insurance business and I'll not fulfill these dreams.
Right.
But I was talking to Al Roker, and Al Roker got asked to do a Broadway show, a show that I had auditioned for, Waitress, which they turned me down. They said I was too young to play Old Joe, the owner. But he went to take voice lessons, and he nailed it. I went to see him on Broadway. He was amazing, but never had the desire, but put himself on the line. And the same thing, Anthony Ramos, who's a gentleman who I met when I was doing summer stock 10 years ago, and he wanted to be a professional baseball player, decided to stick his toe in the water on theater, and there was something magical at age 17 that we saw him do on stage, and then the next thing you know, he's in Hamilton and now starring in just about every movie. Transformers is coming out, he's doing that, so I applaud these people.
Wow.
Yeah, Mark, and I'll tell you, I really connect with you because I almost didn't get DBL because they said I trended too young, but the hair and makeup staff make me look 45.
Ridiculous.
You know, whatever. But like, let's get serious for a second, because you're talking about people taking risks, but you're taking a risk because people know you and they know your humor from Double Dare and shows like Unwrapped, and that's lighthearted. But this podcast digs deep. Like that, you're taking a risk there and people seeing another side of you. What gives you the confidence to ask these hard questions, man?
Well, at 71 and a half, I have nothing to lose, and I figured I'd go for it. About 100 years ago, I was doing a talk show that your exec producer, Bert Brow, helped me get a guest, Jerry Lewis, who I was obsessed with. And when we had Jerry on the show, I went deep on him and said, you know, why didn't you win an Oscar? How come you've never, you know, gotten an Academy Award? And Jerry looked at me and said, you know, I've never done anything that warranted getting an Academy Award. And I also talked to him about other people, Jim Carrey in particular, basically stealing his act, and the fact that they were asking other people who did Jerry Lewis impressions to do movies, but not him. And I thought he was going to walk out, but he answered the question. And I think unless you're willing to, you know, put these people on the spot and get the truth, there's no point in listening, because, you know, I always get asked about the Burt Reynolds story on The Tonight Show. I'm so tired of telling that story. I've told it for 30 years. There's no point in telling it anymore. There's more information that you might be able to dig out of me other than that.
I think the podcast is perfect for you, Mark. I mean, it makes sense. You've talked openly about your OCD. You have there's a rhythm to podcasting. Like there's so much that you're like a very inquisitive person. This makes total sense to me.
I'm glad you think that way. You know, I'm having a ball. We have Gabe Iglesias, Fluffy the comedian, coming on. We learned a lot of interesting stuff about. Next week, Mike O'Malley is on, and I've known him for 30 years, and I think he's the most successful person to ever come out of Nickelodeon. He stars in movies, he writes television shows, he's done it all. But when you get the behind-the-scenes story of what makes these people tick, and you know, I think that this blown me away is there's something like 850,000 podcasts. After week 1, we were number 77. So people are interested in what we're doing, apparently, and we're going to keep it going.
Yeah, but Mark, it's because you let people in on you too. Like Mark Maron called you the most interesting man in the world, and I think people will know why if you tune in to Unwraps. Mark, we miss you. We love you. Congratulations, DBL Nation. Don't miss an episode of Mark Summers Unwraps. Listen wherever you get your podcast. You can also watch full interviews on Mark Summer Unwraps YouTube. We'll be right back.
We typically don't even think about breathing, but some recent headlines about gas stove emissions and worries over toxic chemicals in the air, or even just this early onset allergy season, might have you thinking a little bit more about the quality of the air you breathe. A viewer asked us if using an air purifier has shown any health benefits. We turned to several sources to verify yes, but its effectiveness depends on the type of air purifier, what kind of pollutants you're dealing with, and where you put it. Since the Environmental Protection Agency warns filter-free air cleaners can generate high amounts of lung-irritating ozone, the EPA instead says to start by looking for air purifiers with a HEPA filter.
But it does need to run rather continuously for it to be effective.
Dr. Anjani Keswani says it should be running at least whenever people are in the room, and the filter should be rated to properly filter the size of the room it's placed in. Research shows air purifiers can help remove harmful gases from the surrounding air, but in that case, old-fashioned ventilation is probably more effective. The devices are best at catching the slightly bigger tiny particles floating around in your home, like allergens, dust, fungal spores, and emissions. There's strong evidence that helps reduce asthma symptoms in children, but the World Health Organization says household air pollution can lead to serious health problems for anyone. Dr. Kizwani points out, though, people live life outside the home too, so it's a bit tough to study specific health benefits of a purifier in the house, though research does show cleaner air is healthier air.
We think a lot about air pollution as affecting the lungs and the nose and maybe the sinuses as well, but there's actually a huge amount of literature on how particulate matter affects heart attack risk and stroke risk.
Research shows the portable purifiers are more effective because they don't just rely on heat or AC kicking in to work. We have more information on the research and findings on our website. With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
Public health data shows that since December, Georgia doctors report an elevated rate of reinfections when people get COVID more than once. It makes up about a third of the cases each week. So, do repeat COVID infections increase the risk of severe disease? Let's verify. These are our sources. The study found that many reinfections are mild, but some people who get COVID more than once are at risk of a more severe case.
We know that repeat infections increase your rate of hospitalizations by 3 times and death by 2 times.
Researchers found that if you had a mild first infection, you're 90% likely to have a mild case the second or third time. But if you were hospitalized the first time, you have a 50% chance of being hospitalized again. Dr. Morgan says each new variant decreases the likelihood that having the virus in the past will protect you in the future. So we can verify, yes, repeat COVID infections can increase the risk of severe disease. With your Fast Facts, I'm Christy Diaz.
Welcome back to DBL. When it comes to bathroom remodels, what is worth the splurge? We're talking about in today's tips, sponsored by Jacuzzi. According to interior designers, these specific renovation ideas will turn your bath into a spa every time. Radiant floor heating, oh yes. Next, oversized rain shower head. Also, electric outlets inside your cabinets and drawers. And lastly, a shower niche for your shampoo. Oh, if you want to start your remodel, Jacuzzi can help you do it the right way with a spa-like experience. Jacuzzi offers an unmatched, stress-free remodeling process. Visit jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 1-800-523-1523. We have a very special story for you before you go. How many of you thought we'd have flying cars from the Jetsons by now? Way to go, Steve. Well, it turns out you can buy a flying bike. For just $500,000, you could own one of these. It's a handy luxury air cruiser inspired by Star Wars. It can hit speeds ranging from 50 to 62 miles per hour. And will be super handy flying all over traffic on your way to the work, to the gym, to the grocery store.
That's pretty cool, though. Like in the right environment, just to fly those around.
The right environment.
I want to do it. Bye.